All right, hi everyone. Welcome to the breakout session called CPL Nuts and Bolts. My name is Candace Rose. I'm from Palomar College. I am a faculty in the Media Studies Department. I teach in the cinema program, and I'm also the Credit for Prior Learning Coordinator at Palomar College. Palomar College was the pilot college, or one of the pilot colleges through the Chancellor's Office over this last year that sort of spearheaded the Credit for Prior Learning initiative. So our college is a little bit ahead of the other colleges in the system. So I'm here today to share some of that information. And I've got some colleagues from Norco. So I'm going to turn it over to Janelle. Go ahead.
Hi everyone, my name is Janelle Brecky. I am the Senior Academic Evaluation Specialist for Norco College and also the Military Articulation Platform Evaluations Lead as well. Dr. Campos?
Hi everyone, Peggy Campo. I teach mostly anatomy and physiology at Norco College. I am a former Academic Senate President and currently the faculty lead of our Military Articulation Platform. Welcome.
Awesome. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here in just a moment. Let me just get my screen ready here. All right. Okay, let me minimize that. So what I wanted to start out with is showing you our Palomar College website and also the Norco website. These are resources for you that I think you'll find helpful as we go through these slides. Feel free to log on to these pages. So if you go to Palomar College and you into the search, you put CPL, that will take you right here to our Credit for Prior Learning website. The opening tab is kind of geared towards our students. It's a nice clean page that just gives you some facts about what is Credit for Prior Learning. We also have a student resource page, a faculty resource page that can be very helpful for your faculty. It even walks through the process of what faculty need to go through in order to make their course Credit for Prior Learning eligible at Palomar. And then this Credit for Prior Learning materials and resource page will be very helpful for you. I also wanted to highlight this one, which is our our course list page. And this is where students, faculty, counselors, etc., can come here and you can search through our database of Credit for Prior Learning eligible courses. Right now we have about 100 courses in 12 different disciplines. You can search by assessment method, you can search by the meta major, and you can also search by the discipline. You'll see also that we have information about the assessment methods for that course, the degrees and certificate that course falls into, and then any notes. So for example, if you were to go to industry certification, you would see in the notes section, like for automotive in particular, automotive 100 maintenance and minor repair, you'll see in the notes section exactly what industry certificate students need, what courses they would need to have completed in order to be eligible to apply for Credit for Prior Learning through industry certification for that particular course. And then I'd like to bring you here to the Norco page. I'm going to just turn this over to my colleagues if you guys want to speak a little bit to how this page could be helpful to our attendees.
So we've listed all of the presentations, just introducing our military articulation platform through our VRC's webpage. So if you come to our VRC webpage, you're able to access all of the presentations that we've done, as well as any resources that might be helpful, such as past presentations.
Yeah, and I found this page to be very helpful. So I do recommend going there and checking this out. We'll be getting into more details about how to assess with military credit for Credit for Prior Learning, and this page can be helpful for you as well. All right, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and get into present mode here. And we're going to take you through some slides. This opening slide here has pictures of some of our students that are in programs that are currently Credit for Prior Learning eligible, the Military Partnerships Articulation, Fashion, and Automotive Technology. So just as an overview of what is Credit for Prior Learning, it is college credit awarded for validated college level skills and knowledge that's gained outside of a college classroom. So students' knowledge and skills might be gained through experiences such as their military training, industries training certification, state, federal government training, volunteer and civic activities such as like Peace Corps, and then apprenticeships, internships, work-based learning, or other industry-based experiential learning. Credit for prior learning can close the present day equity gaps. And this is a great article here that you can check out. Most Californians who can benefit from CPL are people of color. It validates learning that has occurred. It saves money and time. It increases employer partnerships. It aligns with guided pathways. The students that are credit for prior learning eligible are adult students. They have experience in life training, and to be validated for that learning can help with not only to get them into college and get on the right path, but we find that these students have better retention. They are completers in their programs. They are highly motivated and excited to get those degrees and either go back into the workforce or even continue on with their education. So we put together here some highlights of sort of breaking down credit for prior learning. So when you are, at this point that you're starting to dive in, and where do we get started? So one of the categories I put together is this institutionalizing credit for prior learning. It does take the support of the entire campus. It cannot just be one faculty member on their own doing this. It really does need to be all of the stakeholders. So we got faculty, student services, administration. I would put instruction in there, our articulation officer as well. Colleges need to have their policies in place on credit for prior learning by December 31st of 2020. That is a state mandate, and they need to be certified by the Chancellor's office. So that is something that we're all working towards. Institutionalizing it at Palomar, we created a faculty CPL coordinator position with some release time. This position also reports to our faculty senate and curriculum, very important to keep everybody in the loop. It also aligns with our guided pathways pillars and working on transcribing credit for prior learning, continuing state partnerships with our community college, and then also working within multi-college districts, which can present its own benefits and also challenges as well. So my partners will talk about that in just a moment. Faculty champions. At Palomar, we have 12 disciplines. We have, now it's actually about 100 courses that are CPL eligible. These were our faculty who were already awarding, I should not say awarding credit, but already waiving credits, if that makes sense. So they were already in disciplines and programs where students with military experience or industry experience came to them, and the faculty determined, you've got the skills and the learning necessary for this beginning level course. I can waive that for you, which allows you to get into the more advanced courses. Of course, what that does is that student still has to make up those credits, right? They still need those credits in order to get that degree. Well, now that the state has mandated that community colleges offer credit for prior learning for more than just electives, we are actually awarding them for courses that can be general education courses or courses within their major. Now students can get those credits. This can save them time and money. So those faculty, you will find them on your campus. They are already on board. They are already excited for this. They've been wondering where this has been. Those are the ones you want to start with. And then the other faculty will eventually join in too when they see what a wonderful opportunity this is for their students. We've created at Palomar a course crosswalk inventory sheet. We do some professional development. And so we'll be showing you a bunch of different tools that you can use with your faculty as well. Counselors, very, very important part of this credit for prior learning experience. They are the first point of contact for our students. And students need to have an education plan on file. That's part of our Title V requirement. So we want the counselors to be knowledgeable and understanding of all of the intricacies of transferring credit for prior learning credits to the CSUs, the UCs, and then outside colleges as well. And then finally, that student experience, right? The whole reason we're doing this is to make this easy and equitable for students. So at Palomar, we have an intake survey. We have a website that I just showed you with our course list. We have this great electronic CPL approval process form. We're now calling it the Petition form. And we've also created some great military leadership programs. We have one called our Military Leadership Apprenticeship Program with the U.S. Marine Corps that stemmed out of Credit for Prior Learning. So I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues and from Norco and let them talk a little bit more about some of these highlights, what's important, areas that they would recommend you pay attention to, but also what it's like to be a multi-college district. So it is.
So just adding, when institutionalizing CPL, being aware of your processes. Norco College is part of a 3-college, multi-college district with 3 colleges, part of the Riverside Community College District. And we have shared curriculum. So all our curricular processes for shared classes that have those common curricular have to a process that goes through a district. Right now, all of our credit for prior learning, we've agreed that if 2 of the 3 colleges approve it, it will move forward as an accepted credit for prior learning. But it really depends on your district. And really, when we're talking about institutionalizing CPL, to be aware of your processes and to try and make this, the entire process, fill into the processes that are already made. And so that it really isn't reinventing the wheel. It is simply adding on more spokes to the wheel to reinforce it. I think that's kind of the idea that we wanted to get across. I don't know, Janelle, was there anything else?
Nope, that was perfect.
Awesome. All right. So those policies we've been talking about, right? So here are some tips that may help you. Most of you, by the time you're watching this workshop, you've probably gotten started on those policies, and some of you may already be at the point where it's going through your governing board to get approval. At Palomar College, we modified our existing credit by exam policy to create our credit for prior learning policy, similar to what the state did with the Title V. They took the credit for prior learning and they changed it into, or excuse me, credit by exam, and they changed it into credit for prior learning. And so some tips, you can go to our Palomar College website, go onto the materials and resources page, and you can download our policies from the website. You could certainly use those policies. You could use the verbiage because those policies align with what the Chancellor's Office is looking for and have gotten approval. You can obviously modify to fit your college's needs as long as obviously you're following, the Title V mandates. And then make sure you're reaching out to your faculty senate, your districts, your presidents, get on the agenda early, include everybody, all of the stakeholders in this process so everybody's up to speed so they know what's coming, right? And that can help you through that process. Peggy or Janelle, do you want to add anything? Because I know your process is just a little bit different than our process.
Again, it's just simply following the process that is for changing board policy. We've done the same thing, modified the credit by exam, and we're behind actually at our district in comparison to Palomar's already has their board policy approved. Ours is going to our board in early December. But we're simply following the process, going through our local academic senates, then going through our district senate, our chancellor's cabinet, and then ultimately. But that is, again, those internal processes that people have to be aware of, making sure that the right people with the right eyes are making sure that they're reviewing and having things done in time.
Absolutely. And I would say for me as a faculty member, that was a little bit of a learning curve, was what is our process and what are the deadlines? That's probably the number one thing you've got to figure out so that you can meet those deadlines, is what is that process? All right, so we've broken up this presentation and these slides into 2 chunks. One is the credit for prior learning processes for faculty, and the other one will be the credit for prior learning processes for student services. So we're going to go ahead and sort of touch on each of these. And of course, if you have questions, feel free to contact us. We'll have our contact information at the end of the slides. So we've created a course crosswalk inventory sheet. This is an internal document. In other words, it's to be used by the faculty. Our faculty at Palomar meet with the credit for prior learning coordinator and the articulation officer to just assess, is this class a good candidate for credit for prior learning? And in this document, they list out their courses, the unit values, but then you can start to assess, is this part of a transfer? Does this transfer to the CSU? Does it transfer to the UC? Is it part of a transfer degree? And is credit by exam with a pass credit or, with a grade, is that a good option for this class? How about military joint service transcript? Is that a good option? Should we do portfolio review, and so on and so forth? Because there are some variables, there are some things we need to take into account when it comes to transfer. And so it is good to be able to assess, this is a great class for that. Maybe this one isn't such a great course for that, and so on. Because of course we want to make sure that our students have the best opportunities possible for them.
So Candace, I'm sorry, I'm just going to interrupt.
Yep.
That form actually is really quite useful. Us at Norco, we are really only using credit for prior learning for our local degrees, since we don't have a guarantee that CSUs and UCs will be accepting this credit for prior learning units. We are recommending for our students only for those local degrees and sort of certificates until, and again, we always have that student-centered view of trying not to hurt our students when transferring.
Yes, and that's a really important point. I'm glad that you brought that up again. This document can be found on the Palomar College website. It's also part of the toolkit. So if you've received the toolkit from the Chancellor's office, this is a part of that as well. I do have the toolkit as well on our website link. But Peggy makes a really good point. Right now, the CSUs and the UCs are not mandated to accept credits that have been awarded to students for credit for prior learning, other than they will accept the credit by exam and the traditional, the AP, IB, and CLEP. Those are the methods that they had been accepting for years. But when it comes to military transcript, industry certification, or portfolio review and assessment, there is no guarantee that that's going to be accepted. And so that's where the student needs to be very, very informed. What Palomar is doing is we are recommending to our faculty that offer portfolio review, that offer industry certification, we're also recommending that they do offer the option of credit by exam for the student. So if a student does want to transfer, then we would recommend, or the counselor would recommend, that they do the credit by exam option until at the state level they figure this out. And they are having conversations between the different chancellors' offices about this, and they are encouraging colleges to work with their local CSUs to try to create some kind of agreement. Palomar is in the process of having conversations with San Marcos, but we do not have any kind of MOU or anything set up yet. All right, so at Palomar, what we're doing with our portfolio and our credit by exam assessment methods is we're using Canvas. So when a student petitions to do a course and then meets with their counselor and with the faculty as well to determine that they're a good candidate for this, a section of that course is created and the student is then placed into that section, and they have a Canvas shell available. So the student could then put their e-portfolio right into Canvas. It actually already integrates with Canvas. Canvas Instructure purchased ePortfolio, so it fits perfectly. And on our Palomar College website, the Credit for Prior Learning website, if you go to our faculty resource page, I've got links to some great tutorial videos of how to use and do portfolio review for the Credit for Prior Learning assessment. And so this is an option that we're using. The exams could also be administered through Canvas if the faculty feels that that's the best way to do it. And then the student can receive their award or grade, or excuse me, receive their grade through that. This is just one example of what a geography faculty member put together. They have a video that explains what they are looking for in that portfolio assessment. So this can save the faculty member some time. Meeting with the student can be optional, but it can also just be a meeting just to introduce themselves and to, answer a few questions to make sure that this is the best path for them. And then the faculty can give them this video and say, okay, watch this. This is what you need for your portfolio, and you can upload it into Canvas. Military and ACE recommendations. So this is just some information, basic information I put here. Right now, Palomar is just starting on this process. We are beginning to assess the ACE IDs and how they relate to our courses. But my partners at Norco, they have been doing this for some time now. They have really figured out this process, and they have what's called a MAP program. So I'm going to turn it over to them and let them sort of talk to you about this process.
So what you're seeing on the screen is just a side-by-side view of what a faculty member sees in the military articulation platform. What we found at Norco College is we did have a process for approving military credit for our veterans utilizing some of our local programs, and we were allowing credit, but there was no way to make that scalable for future use. So with the articulation or the military articulation platform, we were able to store those credit recommendations for a veteran that had a specific course, had a specific occupation in the military, so that when a student does come through our doors, we already know that that articulation was approved, or that specific MOS with that rank was approved, and I don't have to send that credit recommendation to Peggy 10 times for her to approve that for our students. So it does store the credit recommendations for us. It gives a great side-by-side view so that the faculty member can see our course information, our course description, along with the student learning outcomes, and also what the ACE guide provides, which is the course content, the location, the objectives, and the credit recommendations.
Excellent. So yeah, go ahead.
And just to touch on what's on the PowerPoint, we are looking to expand this outside of the IEDRC eventually.
Yes. And so for those of you that are interested in this, Palomar is also looking into getting this program. I think after having done this sort of the old school way, I would love to have this military articulation platform to work with. There is a cost to it. And hopefully down the road, that could be a cost that could be covered by by the state, by the Chancellor's Office. It isn't at this point. But you can certainly reach out to Norco, get some information from the developers of how this could be integrated into your own college system and how you can use this to work with your students. And this is just an example from Palomar College where we went beyond the ACE recommendations. So ACE is called the American Council on Education. They've been around, I think, since the 1940s, and they have assessed military training and education. They do a robust assessment of their programs, and with faculty within those disciplines, faculty from colleges from around the country who assess that this military training equals these courses, or we recommend, lower division and upper division in, say, communication or administration or leadership and so on. Okay, so they have their recommendations. The ACE website does say in their facts section that because programs are unique, colleges are unique, that some colleges can go beyond their recommendations using other methods of assessment. So what we did at Palomar is we had our faculty in our computer science program work with faculty in the Marine Corps Communications Electronics School. They actually reached out to us because our program is very similar to theirs. They do Cisco, and it's almost exact to what we're doing, except that their students do many more hours than our students do in this training. So our faculty looked over their program outline of instruction, and they looked over our course outlines of records, and through several meetings and discussions, our faculty determined that if a student has this aviation communication systems technician occupation, it's an occupation, not a course, on their JST, and they've gone through this particular school, because you can have this occupation and not have gone through this school and gotten this training, so they need both, that those students can then earn these 7 courses towards the Computer Network Administration with emphasis in Cisco certificate. So they only need 2 more courses to finish our certificate. All Marines get their health and fitness requirements at Palomar waived. Those students could potentially get 2 more electives if they chose to continue on with their associate's degree. So we are using portfolio assessment, not military transcript, In other words, on their transcript, it will say prior learning assessment portfolio, and they will be awarded these credits as long as they have this requirement met. And our faculty determines exactly how to assess that. All right, so now let's move on to our CPL processes for student services, another extremely important part of this puzzle. Institutionalizing credit for prior learning. So I highlighted student counseling because, again, and I touched on this earlier, they are the point person for the student. It is very important that they are up to date on all of the transfer issues, requirements, etc., and can guide our students in the right direction. Credit for prior learning is not automatically awarded. It is an option for students, and they need to be able to make that decision for themselves in a very informed and educated manner to make sure that this is right for them. So for example, a student in the military may have had some training in, let's say, diesel mechanics, but they want to go into computer science, something very different. It might not benefit them to get those credits towards something that is not in their degree path. It may, if they need some additional credits, but that's needs to be determined with them and their counselor. CPL coordinator position, again, having some kind of position on the campus that is overseeing credit for prior learning. So at Palomar, we actually created a position. Your campus might decide to do a committee or a task force instead. Norco, could you speak a little bit to how you've institutionalized CPL, your position?
So for us, the majority of the CPL, we started actually with the military. So we've actually been awarded, we actually use some of our strong workforce funds for funding faculty positions. So I have a reassigned time to be able to coordinate faculty, as well as since in the beginning of articulating these courses, in the beginning, it's a heavy workload. We do have some special funds for special projects, some funds for faculty involved in articulating courses in the beginning that's going to involve so much time. But once the initial process is done, really it's just going to be to maintain with curriculum, keep up to date with curricular changes. So that's how we implemented at Norco College this idea of a coordinator position.
Excellent. And so just so you know, at Palomar, we're using guided pathway funds. We also had some release time through our academic senate that rotates. So for a couple of years, we can use that release time. So you can get creative on your campus. Support staff and administrative support. There might be opportunities on your campus to have some kind of support staff that can help, like, you know, perhaps helping with your website and so on and so forth. I do strongly recommend that you have faculty driving this initiative, overseeing this initiative, because it is ultimately the faculty who need to make the decisions about whether or not credit for prior learning works for a course, and then what would those assessment methods be. All right, so at Palomar, we have an intake survey. Our students who are registering for the first time with Palomar College take a survey to determine their math and English placement. And so we tacked on a few more questions for credit for prior learning. And this directs them to a counseling session. At Palomar, our counselor is actually our veterans counselor. So we have one counselor right now who is our official CPL counselor. And then we are making sure that all of our counselors are kept up to speed. I've met with them twice already this semester. I'll do a couple workshops next spring as well, to keep everyone up to speed, everyone educated, but having one counselor who's also very knowledgeable with our military students has been really helpful, especially in starting out this process. So that might be something that works for your campus. We also, as I mentioned, have our website. And now we have what's called the CPL electronic petition form. I'm very excited about this. This is one of the elements that will help make this process streamlined for everyone. So we are in the process of creating this electronic petition form. Palomar College uses what's called a Gideon-Taylor form. This form will populate automatically for the student. The student then can select their course and their subject number. Right now, they can look at our website to see this information. As this form gets developed, we are also creating a table through PeopleSoft where these courses are identified as with the CPL code and also with the method of assessment. So there will be a drop down with with only the CPL eligible courses. The student would then select which method of assessment they're going to do. The very next step in this approval process and petition form is the counselor. So then the counselor gets to review this, meets with the student, makes sure that this is the correct course, the correct next step for them. And then depending on the method of assessment, it will branch out and go to different people within the process, whether that's the chair of the program, whether that is the student needing to upload their industry certificate, and so on and so forth. So what's great about this form is it can alert everybody in the process. We can set up those alerts. Anyone within the process can go in and look at the form. If it gets stuck somewhere, we can see where it's at. It can get kicked back to the student so they could resubmit. Maybe they need to resubmit that industry certificate, and so on and so forth. The course section I talked to you about in Canvas can also be triggered so that the student can admissions knows to put them into that section, and so on. And then at the end of the process, that student gets alerted that they've been awarded that grade. It will show up on their transcript. The credit for prior learning coordinator can be alerted, and so on and so forth. So very helpful. And then finally, transcribing. This is very important. This is required by Title V and our accreditation, is that we have the prior learning assessment is clearly designated on the transcript, and it needs to indicate what method of assessment. So it can say, ours says prior learning assessment credit by exam, and then the course is listed, and the grade and the semester it was awarded in. Or it could say prior learning assessment military, and then it will have the ACE ID and then the course or courses that they've received credit for. Same thing with the industry certification, and then the portfolio assessment as well. So all of that needs to be clearly defined, and depending on your campus and your system, this might be an easy process or this might take a little while. It took a little while at Palomar. It was some work to get that done. Norco, Peggy and Janelle, why don't you talk a little bit about what your college does with your transcribing?
And so it was a lengthy process for us as well, but we're finally there. We do issue the student credit, but it is indicated by the type. So we will indicate credit for prior learning with the use of a JST when we're issuing the student credits on their transcript.
Yes, and so we at Palomar don't have our final transcript yet, but we're expecting that to be completed here in December. So starting in the spring, that can be transcribed appropriately. And Norco already has theirs completed. So if you do want to just see a visual example, you can certainly reach out to us. And then top 3 actions that colleges can take to offer students CPL opportunities. So reaching out to your faculty champions, identifying your CPL counselor, and then of course, streamlining that internal process for students. Try to make it as easy as possible. We will be rolling out our marketing campaign, if you will, in the spring to inform students. Students can currently get credit for prior learning credits, but we don't have that form completed yet. So we have not been advertising it because we want this to be a very smooth and easy process. Right now, I would just walk them through the process. So hopefully by spring, well, not even hopefully, by spring, we will be rolling this out. So you can certainly reach back to us at that point. Janelle and Peggy, what do you do to let your students know, at least for the military portion, that they can earn credit for prior learning?
So at the time of intake with the students that are seeking services through our Veterans Resource Center, they do have a checklist which informs the student of everything that they need to do to begin begin at the college. And one of the options is to seek in or opt out for their military credit. So at that time that they're going through the checklist, if they're interested in having their JST looked at, then they will indicate that they're interested. They will provide a form that clearly notates that they're opting in, or clearly notates that they are opting out of receiving credit. And then that begins our process. So then, with just working with our VRC, that student is then flagged for us to review their JST and to move forward with the evaluation.
Excellent.
And actually, one of the advantages of our military articulation platform actually is the ability to outreach to students before they come to the college. So one of the things that's fortunate there is that we have uploaded many of the students' veterans and their MOSs, so their military occupation specialty. And we can actually have an outreach program where we can say, look, you already have this career done. You could possibly qualify if you're interested in so many credits already at Norco College. So this is not only then once the student is arriving to inform them of the possibility of credit for prior learning, but actually attracting them to the college. Many private colleges take advantage of this. And that was kind of the focus that we wanted to kind of say, look, you have this incredible GI Bill. Right now it's difficult to find a job. We can offer you some units already to get you started and get you on the path, right? When we're talking about guided pathways. So that's another thing that it does have an outreach component.
Wow, that's great. I didn't even know that. So I just learned something. That makes it even that much more valuable as a program. And what an amazing opportunity for our students. Talk about making, like you said, making the path easy. The onus should be on us, not on the students. This should not be difficult. That's great. All right, so we hope you enjoyed our presentation. If you do have any questions, you can certainly email me at cpl@palomar.edu. You can also email Peggy Campo. It's peggy.campo@norcocollege.edu. Check out our websites as well. And let us know if you have any questions. We hope you enjoyed this session and, have fun with your credit for prior learning. Thank you, everyone.